My name is James Jackson. I'm Chief of Staff for Southfield Public Schools, and I want to welcome you this evening to our forum on school safety. Just a few housekeeping items. There are restrooms down this hallway right to my left and your right. And also, throughout the course of this evening, we're going to talk about several topics related to school safety. And at the end of the discussion on stage, we're going to open the floor for questions. So if you do have a question, we have question cards. So if you would like to have a question raised to the superintendent or to the chief of police, just put your hand up, we'll give you a card, and then once you've filled out the card, we ask that you pass it to one of our varsity football players who are in uniform this evening. There are vendor tables in the corridor right outside the auditorium. Please stop by. Please stop by those tables. We have some amazing partners that the school district works with. We have our anti-drug coalition. We have Oakland County Health, and they're here with great information, with information about the things that they do, programs that they offer that you can take advantage of. So please stop outside of those tables and take a look. I know that with the Drug Coalition, they are preparing to do some Narcan training, and so we want you to take advantage of that if that's something that you're interested in. All right, at this time, I would like to bring to the microphone the president of our area council PTA, Ms. Celestine Standers. She'll kill me for messing up her name because I've known her for a long time. To bring greetings on behalf of our PTA and also to set the occasion. So.
Well, when you get to be young, you have to put on your reading glasses. So hello, everybody. Good evening, and I'm just so delighted to welcome you to this wonderful event that we're having today. The parents expressed this interest, and due to all of the different guns and children that have been either involved or shot or expired due to this. And this is the #1 cause of death as far as children are concerned. Some people think it's something else, but it's really guns, and I'm sure our wonderful guest speaker will tell you more about that. I'm thrilled that the parents are so involved. I knew when I saw the rain, I have the sweetest parents in the world, they would melt, so I knew they would not probably come out in the rain. But we're excited that this will be televised and they'll be able to see it, because when they text me, they told me, now, it's raining and I don't know if I'm going to bring the baby out. And so we have to set it up where all the families can come. So some have younger children, whatnot. This is dinner time as well. And usually what we do is we do have pizza and whatnot for them. But at this time, since it is going to be taped, it's going to help out, and we're thrilled that you decided to come. I am the president. My name is Celestine Sanders, as he said, and I am the president of Southfield PTA Council, which is an honor. And I would like to recognize the other members of the executive board as well. And Zachariah Gross, he's not here right now, but he is the first vice president. And Paula Moore, I'll ask her to stand. She's the second vice president, Paula, over here. And we have Will Parrish. He's the treasurer, and he's here. And Kinshasha Moon-Smith, she is the secretary. So we're thrilled to have this partnership with Southfield Public School District to join in this really worthwhile and important timely discussion with the Safety School Forum. I think as you look back over the time and whatnot, and I'm going to stop here. And I'm also going to thank Charlie Kennedy. She has been the past president of Southfield PTA Council, and she asked. There are a few more people I'm going to stop, and I know we have the president of university, K through 12, and I'm going to ask her to stand, please, so let's recognize her. And I believe we have the president of A&T, Southfield A&T. She said she was coming. Is she here yet? I don't see her, but we'll, when she comes. Are there any more presidents of PTAs or someone to recognize? We will do the roll call of the schools. Okay, we're thrilled, as I said, to have this partnership. We're excited. We're thrilled that our chief of police, Southfield PTA, thank you. We're thrilled to have the Southfield chief here as our guest speaker. It was really interesting when we talked about the areas. We asked our parents, what do you want to hear about? What are you concerned about? And all of them had on their list, may not have been the first, but it was the second or first. They all said gun safety. And that's because, as you well know, the children are concerned. Our students are concerned about that because they have friends, they have family members and whatnot that have been affected by guns. And whenever you talk about it, you can see them coming in. They did a wonderful program here called Challenge. And it was so interesting by Oprah Winfrey. And when they talked about children that have been involved in any kind of gun, whether it's a family member or yourself or whatever, they said step across the line. People were surprised to see how many students know people that have been involved in guns. And so therefore, this is the #1 topic that we need to address. So we're just thankful. I do want to take this time to acknowledge our special guests. And we're thrilled to have them here. And if I kill your name, just tell me. Jessica Wyzinski, she's the school mental health person here. Would you stand, please, Jessica? Oh, there she is. Hi, Jessica, thanks for coming. For the neighborhood of Oakland County. And we're thrilled to have you. Thank you. We have, now they've already introduced them, Aaron Hughley. He's the deputy chief of the Southfield Police Department. Aaron, there he is. Okay, Aaron. We have Raymond Hood, the school resource officer for Southfield. Thank you. Jared Wumble, and he is the Southfield Police Department. Where's Jared? Jared?
Right here.
Oh, there he is in the back. Brandon Walker of the Southfield Police Department. Brandon. Okay, and we have Anderson, Janae Anderson. I see she signed. Well, she's Janae, sign up. You sign under the VIP, so that means you are VIP. So Janae, just stand up. Stand up with your children. She's waving her hand. Okay. And Candace Castor, where's Candace? Candace, you sign. Let's have you stand, please. Okay, wave your hand anyway. There she is. Okay. And then we have Rebecca. From the people accounting Southfield. Rebecca, would you raise your hand or stand up, either one? There she is. Hi, Rebecca. So this is Winston. Winston is the vice president of Advance Incorporated. Winston, where are you? Is he outside? Oh, he is? Oh, okay. Oh, there he is. Hi, Winston. Okay, thank you. Jenna she's going to give me Magnesium. Is that close? Anyway, I should know her because she's on the Michigan PTA president-elect, and I'm on the Michigan PTA as well. So, we talk all the time. And she's so wonderful, and thank you for coming. She said, I'm definitely coming. Tiffany, Lake Oakland County Community Engagement. Tiffany, there she is. She is here representing Dave Coulter, who's our executive director for Oakland County. Yay, yay. Thank you, Tiffany, for coming. And we have Renee Finley. She is here. She must be outside. She signed in. But she's here. She is the president of Southfield A&T, PTSA. Steve Hendricks. Where's Steve? Steve, where are you? Is he out? He's in the hallway? Okay, Southfield Police Department. Did I miss anyone? And if I missed anyone, please stand and give us your name. I don't want to miss anyone. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. Go ahead. She is. I know what? And I look for her name. She is. She's Lenny Taylor, the Oakland County Commissioner. We're so thrilled to have you that you thought enough of Southfield Public School District and the Southfield PTA to come. You thought enough of this community and these parents who feel that this is important, and obviously you do too. So we thank you for taking the time, because you are taking the time in this rain to come out and support us. So thank you so much, all of you. Okay, I'm ready for the school board. Okay, now, they're special. So are you ready? Let's see, I'm looking for the board president. Okay, first we have our wonderful school board, and we could not do a lot of this without them. They are so supportive. If you ask anything, it will be done. That's one thing about it. They will listen and they will let you know if you can or can't do it. But if you can't do it, they're going to find a way to help you so it looks like you did it. But they are so wonderful, and I thank them for it. Ashanti Bland, where is she? Board president. She's all over her. I don't feel she must be out in the hall. But we have Yvette Ware Duvall. She is the vice president of the board. Stand up, Mrs. Duvall. We have Talisha Belk. Is she here? She's the board treasurer. Talisha. I don't think she could make it. I know there were conflicts. Leslie Smith Thomas. She's the board secretary. I know she could not make it. Jillian Holloway. She's the board trustee. They do let us know when they can't make it. I know there's some conflicts. Amani Johnson is the board trustee. And then we have Daryl Joyce. Daryl Joyce, he's always here. He is also a board trustee. We're thrilled at this time we're going to ask her to stand. She's the newly elected member of the board, and her name is Nicole Denson. Nicole, would you stand up? There she is. Thank you very much. So at this time, I think I have taken care of all of our... I'm sorry, someone said something? Did I miss it? Okay, I'm sorry. Did I miss someone? Because I heard a name, I heard someone. Okay, then we're going to move on. Now, if I miss, please come and tell me. Now, this forum will provide families with valuable resources and strategies to assist them and their children in navigating safety concerns both inside and outside of school. This event reflects our ongoing commitment to a collaborative approach to address the needs of everyone within our community. There is, and he told you about the question and answer, and at this time, I'm going to show our gratitude for the audience attendance. It is wonderful to see all the ones that are here today. We have come together to learn suggestions of what we can do to save our children, and your presence has certainly made a difference, a very special difference. And we want to take this time, and I had told the different principals and PTA, and if you weren't a PTA, then be sure to come out. We're going to do a shout out. I love shout outs. So when I call the school's name, if you are a member of that school, we're going to ask you to just shout out. So of course, the first one, we always go alphabetical, is Morris Adler. If there's anyone for Morris Adler, would you shout out? Yay, Morris Adler, yay! Okay, next we have Bernie. We have a new principal over there. Anyone from Bernie? Okay, well, we got, okay. Well, I'm going to be remiss. I have to keep Bussy. Bussy is our little ones. Bussy, look at that shout out over there, yeah. Kennedy Learning Center. Oh, my goodness. Levy. All right, Levy, yeah. McIntyre. Okay. Southfield A&T. We don't hear Southfield. I heard all right, the football players, yeah. Agnes Stevenson. All right. Thompson. And last but not least, University K-12 Academy. I think I have them all. Thank you so much. Now I have the distinct pleasure of introducing our dynamic superintendent, Dr. Jennifer Martin Green. She has many accomplishments, and one was her selection and induction into the Michigan Chronicle 2022 Woman of Excellence class. She is recognized for her visionary leadership, noteworthy accomplishments, and enthusiastic service to the Southfield Public School District's children, families, and community. Thanks to her, we have an A1 credit rating. We've received funds to help with our infrastructure in all schools, and we're building a new university, K-12. At present, every school will have a clinic in their building for a day to give COVID vaccinations to the students and families in that school. She will assist our dynamic guest speaker, Chief Elvin Barron, as the moderator. Everyone knows Dr. Green, she's everywhere. So it's my distinct pleasure and honor to introduce to you Dr. Jennifer Martin Green. Thank you very much. Just welcome her.
Good evening, everyone. It is truly a pleasure to be here with you this evening to discuss several matters of importance relative to our students, our scholars, affectionately known as my babies, and their safety. Not only the safety of our young people, but the safety of our staff as well. Their families send them to work each and every day, and they expect us to bring them back whole at the end of every day. So it is extremely important that we ensure that the environment is safe for everyone. The next person joining me on the stage needs no introduction. He came to Southfield and took the community by storm. He is accountable for every occurrence that happens in the city. He is transparent, and before a situation is completely resolved, you will see him on one of the major television stations telling you what happened, when it happened, how it happened, and more than likely provide you body cam footage in real time so that you know your tax dollars are being utilized properly in the city of Southfield. I have him on speed dial, and my family entrusts him with my safety each and every day, as your families entrust him with your safety as well. Please join me in welcoming our very own Chief, Elvin Barron. Chief Barron, on behalf of the School Board of Education, the Area Council PTA, and all of us within Southfield Public Schools, we thank you for taking care of us on a daily basis. We also thank you for being our thought partner as we strategize in making not only our schools, but our communities safer each and every day. We turn on the news, and sometimes not even the news feeds, but the social media and all other modes of information, and without fail, every day we are seeing something happening to a young person, either locally, statewide, or nationally. We have to do better as a people to ensure the safety and the future of our next generation. As you know, we at Southfield Public Schools take safety and threats of violence very seriously. The district has established processes and procedures and systems to address issues, and every parent receives a copy of the Student Code of Conduct, of which they sign off on, acknowledging receipt of those rules that govern the school district. The Student Code of Conduct was developed from the Michigan Compiled Law, which governs all that we do within the state. That being said, I have a few questions regarding threats of violence, because that seems to be more prevalent now than ever before. Students may think that their words and actions are a joke, when actually their words and actions are a threat, which is a serious matter that shall, not may, but shall be investigated. How can parents help their children understand that words and actions matter?
Thank you, Dr. Green. And for our parents, it's very important to understand that those words have consequences. Oftentimes, some of the students, we've seen it locally, nationally, even within our Southfield Public School District, idea that I'll put out a threat, so maybe I can get off school early, maybe I want to take a test, maybe I can get an early weekend. However, the Southfield Police Department will investigate those threats. And let me be very clear when it comes to the expectation of our Oakland County prosecutor, and really all the prosecutors who are dealing with the same issue. If a threat is made, credible or non-credible, we'll talk about those definitions later on, there will be a response from law enforcement, and there will also be a response from the prosecutor's office, and it comes in the form of accountability. Please note that our children can be subject to incarceration, depending on the nature of those threats and the seriousness of those threats. Also, court fees, court costs. A lot of things transpire within your home, and now you're tied up going through a court system over a joke. So please instruct your children and inform them that your words have consequences and there will be accountability when we find out who you are.
Thank you, Chief. You mentioned credible, and I'd like for you to expound on that. The public hears law enforcement discussing non-credible versus that of a credible threat. Please define both terms for us and discuss how the Southfield Police Department determines whether or not a threat is deemed credible.
Right. And we get this question all the time. Chief, what does that mean, credible or non-credible? So we'll first start off describing what a threat, the definition of a threat. So a threat comes in as an expression to do harm to an individual or to an entity. It can come in many different forms. A threat can be a statement. It could be a gesture. It can also be a determining factor in how we move forward. When you look at a difference between a credible threat and a non-credible threat, we'll start with the credible threat being the most serious. We look at, through an investigative process, does this individual have the means to carry out that particular threat? So I'll give you an example. Oftentimes we get threats that come through social media, where you'll see a young person standing there brandishing a handgun, and they'll make a threat on a specific date, a specific time, that they're going to come to a location and shoot up a school or shoot a person. Because there's an individual showing what appears to be a handgun, that is a means to carry it out. And we act very quickly according to those statements to identify those individuals and again hold them accountable. When you look at non-credible threats, what comes in form of the person not likely having the ability to carry it out. I'll give you another example. We get a lot of threats that the school's going to get blown up. Again, social media, sometimes they're writing on the walls in the bathroom, sometimes they're writing on a napkin. Tomorrow the school's going to be blown up. When we do an investigative process and identify who is responsible for that, we'll determine that this person doesn't have the means to set off an explosive. So then we'll classify it as non-credible. But let me be very clear, whether it's credible or not credible, there will be a preliminary investigation that takes place so that we can inform the school district of our findings, whether it's credible or not credible, and then what we're doing to address that issue.
Thank you. Once the Southfield Police Department determines if it is credible or non-credible, what are the next steps? I think people often confuse what the school district has the ability to do versus what the police department has the ability to do. And as we know through our frequent conversations, when an active investigation is underway through the police department, the school district stands down. So can you expound on that in terms of us opening schools?
So when these threats come in, one thing we're very responsive to is the fact of how you feel as a parent, as a student, knowing that a threat was lodged against a particular school. And we look at a non-credible threat or a credible threat, there will be two responses. There'll be a patrol response and there'll be an investigative response. So through the patrol response, you're going to see, again, whether it's credible or non-credible, additional police presence at that particular location. That way you all are confident that the Southfield Police Department is paying attention and that we're giving you the comfortability to send your child to school. We do that at a credible threat. Now that takes a different form. So let's say a credible threat comes in during the school session. Well, at that point, we notify the school district. They'll make a determination on whether the school will go into a particular lockdown, hard lockdown, soft lockdown. Also be a determination made on whether the school will proceed in the manner it's been proceeding in. And so when you look at an investigative process, The Southfield police officers will go to the homes of the parents, whether it's credible or not credible. What we do during that process, we do a bit of homework first. We look to see what weapons the parents may have registered to them. We'll look to see what type of activity has occurred in this household, so we have some knowledge about what we're getting ourselves into. We make contact with the parent, we advise them on what's transpired while we're at your home. We initially ask permission to search that child's room for any type of evidence. Generally, we've been very successful. These parents have been cooperative. But we have had parents who are uncooperative as well. When we get an uncooperative parent, based on the information that we have, we may seek a search warrant through the court and the judge process, and then search the room under the lawful authority of the search warrant. And so these are things that's happening behind the scenes so that you know, day or night, we're taking it serious. We're looking for weapons. We're looking for any type of evidence that can move forward in our process. And one thing I want to make clear, because a lot of people think that the police department is the charging authority. So when the police department investigates these matters, that's any criminal matter, we present our package, our finding, our warrant request to the prosecutor's office. They review the information and then they decide whether to seek or authorize charges. And so I want to make sure that's clear to our community as well, that the decision to charge comes from the prosecutor's office. And they have charged in these incidents in our school district.
Thank you, Chief. You lifted something extremely important. You mentioned that most times parents are cooperative in working with us to do, in your case, do the search. In our case, we use okay to say. Okay to say is extremely important because it brings forward a lot of information in an anonymous manner that allows us to investigate situations to prevent circumstances from occurring within our buildings. I know most recently we had a situation and we were online late in the evening discussing something that came in by way of okay to say, but it caused us additional pause in opening school the next day based on the timing of the tip that came in. Regardless of the time, we are responsive 24 hours per day. So we never want the time to discourage a parent from leaving a tip or a student leaving a tip if you hear something that may or may not have validity. It is better to leave the tip and allow the investigative unit to follow up versus not telling us and allowing something to happen on the back end.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Dr. Green. Day or night, Southfield police officers are on call to investigate these incidents. And with Dr. Green is speaking of, we had an occasion, it was late in the evening. We had a threat that came in through, by way of an email and some social media posting of a threat to a school. Southfield police officers responded. We had officers who were trained in advanced technology, looking at IP addresses, if you will, coordinating with FBI and some of our partners to identify who's sending this information. We're pretty good at doing that. And we were able to uncover, particularly in this instance of Dr. Green's brought up, who the person was, who the IP address, which is logged, recorded by way of your provider. So this is not a secret. We're kind of telling you, if you do these things, we have an avenue and a method to identify who's sending it. And again, we've been very successful in that regard.
That's extremely important. And if the IP address is registered to the parent, which in most instances it is, there could be consequences for the parent if that IP address is the one responsible for making the threat. There will not be consequences for someone reporting a threat. We want to make sure that people know it is safe to report any time that they hear a threat may be impending. Okay, excellent. Let's switch slightly to that of gang behavior, activity, and insignia. When you say the term gang, people get offensive and they automatically state, my child is not affiliated with a gang. The definition of gang per the school student code of conduct is that of having two or more involved in an event that could result in bodily harm to another. So I wanted to clarify that because people automatically think gang being that of an organization and what you may see on television. According to the Code of Conduct's definition, you don't have to be an organized gang. Two or more together creating mischief can be viewed as a gang. The Code of Conduct is very clear in that behaviors, activities, and insignia are not permitted on school property. One of the questions that I get often, and you can tell me more about this than I have from the current data, are there gangs in Southfield Public Schools District?
So this is a conversation that I have constantly with my school resource officers and their supervisors. And so we're not naive to believe that none of these our children in our districts have no gang affiliation. There are some who've had affiliation with gangs, generally outside of the city of Southfield, outside of the Southfield Public School District. Through our investigative processes, when we had arrests that were made on campus, through that process, we have relationships with the Detroit Police Department, for example, who has a gang intelligence unit. And I believe Sergeant Wanda was here. He's our liaison for that process. And that way we share information with Detroit and other surrounding communities on some of the known offenders and their whereabouts, their locations, who their associates are. And it helps us in our investigative process. There's no evidence that suggests that there are active gangs operating in the city of Southfield. But through some of the arrests that we've made, through some of these investigations, we have seen some connections with some of the known gangs outside of the city.
Thank you, Chief. And as we identify individuals that may have those affiliations, you go through the criminal process. We, as a school district, go through the expulsion process, which I will talk more about later in our segment, that removes that element from our school district, and oftentimes through the legal process, remove those individuals from our community once they have been identified. How can parents become more aware of what gang behavior and gang activity looks like in their household?
So the first thing I'm going to ask all parents to do is have conversations with their children. Ask them the question about what's happening in school, who they're hanging out with. Information is readily available when you talk about our children and what they're into. What clothes are they wearing? Have they had disputes between friends and no their friends? Are you monitoring? I know we have this thing with all this privacy, but these are still children. How often are you going to their phones and see who they're talking to? You know, it's a little bit uncomfortable because we have this thing going on, this privacy. But again, these are children. And the information is there, readily available. How often are you going to their social media accounts? When we do an investigation for these shootings and crimes that involve youth, what's the first thing we go into? Social media, because they're telling us there who they're arguing with. They're telling us where they're at. They're telling us who they're affiliated with. The parents should know this well in advance. So I encourage the parents to get involved, ask those tough questions. When was the last time you asked your child on the way out the door, let me see your bag, what you taking to school? And just do a random search to see what's inside the contents of their belongings. Because the information, again, is there, and you have the opportunity to get ahead of these concerns and then notify us if you need resources for intervention.
And I'm glad you mentioned notifying the police department, because my next question is, what should parents do if they suspect that gang behavior and or activity? I know we have some partners in the mezzanine this evening that may have some resources, but what should a parent do if they encounter this?
So what we ask from the police department is notify us. We have school resource officers on our grounds. They know the relationships that we have in our community. I'll give you an example. Through Farm, Family Renaissance, directed by Mr. Willie Bell. I'm sure you're very familiar with Mr. Bell. There's tremendous work in the community, particularly with our at-risk men and young adults, where they have resources, they have mentoring programs. They may need advanced education to get back enrolled in school, jobs that are available through this organization, and they do a tremendous work on getting some of our at-risk youth back on a proper track. Also, through the Omega Psi Phi fraternity, which we know for a fact does tremendous work. I have a relationship with one of the members of it, Mr. Clyde Stewart. He's a assistant chief with the Detroit Public Schools Police Department. But they have a mentoring program as well, designed at-risk youth. So take advantage of some of these organizations. As you mentioned, the school have resources they can direct you to. If you want to involve yourself in the police resource, there are other resources available. But ask for the help. These organizations are demanding and expecting the parents and the children to join and participate in this program.
And the school district does have 2 school-based health centers located within our campuses. One here at Southfield High School for the Arts and Technology. And when people think of health centers, they automatically think of physical well-being and not necessarily think of that of mental well-being. But all of these things are impacting our youth, so we encourage people to utilize those services. The health centers also have counseling available for our scholars as well. Transitioning to our next topic, and this is a topic that brought many people out this evening, that of weapons on campus. As you are aware, our parents are aware, the community is very much aware that in September, a Southfield Public School student brought a loaded firearm onto the campus. Fortunately, an individual came forward with information by way of okay to say, and the relational trust that they built with some of our security officers, which afforded us an opportunity to get ahead of it before anyone became injured. You are not a snitch when you provide information to keep people safe. I've heard all of the adages regarding snitches. Safety first. Too many people, after the fact, state, I wish I would have said something. So we're thankful to the people that did come forward and say something. We're thankful to our security officer. We're thankful to our school resource officers that were able to promptly respond and act on that charge. My questions are as follows. What can parents do to assist the district and the police department to ensure that children do not have access to firearms? You mentioned that of checking their backpacks. Once they're in the backpack, they already have it. How can we proactively ensure that our children don't have access to firearms?
So I'm going to start with the home. When you look at the reason why a lot of our youth are in possession of weapons, a lot of it comes from either breaking into cars, there's breaking into homes. In our most recent incident that Dr. Green brought up about the student who had possession of a firearm in this particular school, he was visiting a classmate and stole that gun from that classmate's parent. So when you look at the gun laws, and I'm sure you all are aware, we have the safe storage laws. So it's very important that if you're a gun owner, and I'm talking to legal and illegal gun owners, it's a huge responsibility and it's a felony to allow for that weapon to come in the hands of a student or even a young person. The penalties range from 2 to 10 years depending on the severity of the incident. And so responsible gun owners ensure that their weapons are properly stored. I'm not talking about underneath the pillow. I'm not talking about in a drawer, on a shelf, under the bed, under the mattress. The children or young adults, they find these guns all the time. You see it transpire in the news. How do you see it transpire? Because they'll get a hold of these weapons. They'll play with them. They'll either shoot themselves or they'll shoot their playmates. And then everybody's trying to find out exactly how this transpired. I'll tell you how. Irresponsible gun ownership.
We need the adults to partner with us to ensure that children remain safe. I know that you've had a number of events to afford free gun lines within the city. Is that something that we can look forward to continuing?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, anyone interested in a gun lot today, our Southfield police officers have a table outside. Certainly take them as you go for yourselves, or if you know someone who's in need of a gun lot, we do have those available. We're going to continue this effort. We're going to continue to beat the drum on gun safety, responsible gun ownership, to ensure that we have an avenue to keep our kids safe.
Everyone is also aware that there are guns in the streets, and youth are gaining access to those weapons by way of connecting via social media or other methods. What can we do about this issue?
Well, if you find information that someone is either selling weapons or have weapons available, we need that information. I spoke earlier about how our youth come into contact with the weapons by way of looking at areas that are prohibited from bringing firearms into. So you'll see a sporting event, you'll see school zones, you'll see concerts. What a lot of the individuals who are stealing these weapons know is individuals bring these guns to these events and they leave them in their vehicles. And then you'll get at an event 10 to 15 car break-ins just looking for the gun. And they've been very successful at finding these weapons right up underneath the seat. And then now those guns end up on the street, as you mentioned, in the wrong hands. So the break-ins from the cars, the homes, and again, from individuals having access to weapons and that property stolen is contributing to that problem.
What can parents do to address the issue that their children think they need to carry a weapon to be safe? There's this misnomer in the community amongst the generation that feel that it's cool to carry a weapon or that we need to carry a weapon to be safe. What can parents do relative to conversation with their young people to combat that?
Yes, and I address this issue very frequently. And one message that I have for parents or the youth is that a gun will get you in more trouble than it will ever get you out of. You said again, a gun will get you in more trouble than it will ever get you out of. So your next question is, well, how is that and why is that? So we'll start with the fact that when you are in possession of a gun, it takes a lot of training just to handle that weapon. So let me tell you what happens all the time. This is my second police department. As many of you know, I spent 21 years with the police department. So you get individuals who are handling these weapons, and then they'll shoot themselves in the process. It'll be a foot injury, a leg injury, thigh, groin. They'll appear at a hospital for treatment, and rather than saying that they shot themselves, they'll say, I heard a shot and felt pain. We get thousands of those reports that comes out over years with the same declaration, heard, shot, felt pain. No, you shot yourself because the trajectory doesn't add up to what you're saying. So that's number one, understanding how to handle a weapon in the first place. Second thing, and you see it transpire all the time in our freeways, recently at a Lions game, where individuals in possession of a weapon, they find themselves now in an argument or a conflict, and the very first thing they're going to do, because of this emotion, they introduce that weapon to that scenario, and then now someone's shot. So now you got someone dead or seriously injured, and you got someone now who's going to be held accountable for that action based on the anger and emotion that transpired. And then thirdly, which I consider probably the most significant of this declaration that guns will get you in more trouble than ever get you out of, we're going back to safe storage, because these guns that you think you're protecting yourself with, you're leaving it on the table. You're leaving it in view of the child. And they get their hands on that weapon. And now, after this gun is discharged, that parent is now held accountable. And then the children who have access are now either dead or critically injured. So I'm going to say it for the third time, a gun will get you in more trouble than it will ever get you out of.
That is a very strong message that I hope everyone in earshot of this conversation takes to heart. Not to mention the legal fees and the emotional trauma that it causes the family. We know many officers who have to discharge their weapons in the line of duty. And although it may be justified, they still have a lot of emotional trauma that comes after discharging a weapon. So someone not trained in doing that would most likely be subject to additional trauma for the duration of their life, potentially. Another thing that we are seeing a lot of these days, you mentioned the emotion that comes in our community on the freeways, at sporting events, in parking lots, and it often results, if not in gun violence, but disorderly conduct. We are seeing a lot of that in the schools. Parents are emotional due to something that happened in and or outside of the school, but they bring it into the school because everything that happens outside comes into the school on Monday morning. We know that Monday morning is our most challenging day of the week because everything that occurred over the weekend is coming into the doors on Monday morning. That being said, and I want to quote, disorderly conduct in students at schools can have a significant negative impact on the learning environment, affecting not only the disruptive student, but also the classmates, teachers, and it can lead to decreased academic achievement. Increased stress levels in the students and the adults, and cause disruptions to the instructional process, potentially causing a decline in overall classroom quality and student engagement, end quote. That being said, this is something that we deal with on a regular basis from students and or adults. What can parents do to help their children to become more respectful of self and others in school so that the environment is more conducive to learning?
Yeah, and we do recognize that each household is different. And we understand that there's some households, a lot of trauma, things are going on in the household. So we're going to start with that we recognize again that each student's situation is unique. But we have to have order in our classroom. We have to have a learning environment that's conducive to educating our students. And one thing we ask the parents to do is set the tone for your child so that they understand your expectations for their behavior outside of your presence. And I think it's very important. You know, a lot of times, as I mentioned before, some of our children suffering from things that are happening in their environment that causes some form of PTSD. They need some help, they need resources. But those resources are available through Oakland County, who does a really great job of providing resources. We work very closely with them. We have a mental health response through the police department. It's been very effective in our response to our youth and our parents.
And I believe the Oakland County Health Department is here this evening and has resources available for our community this evening. On this topic, as I mentioned, Southfield Public Schools is experiencing an increase in disorderly conduct from adult family members. I recall last school year, we had a situation whereby it wasn't the parent of the student that was in an altercation, but there were several other adult family members who felt emboldened to come onto the school campus and handle the situation for this youth. What advice can you provide adult family members and talk to us about the consequences that they would be subject to if they conduct themselves in this manner?
And the incident that Dr. Green that you're mentioning, I'm just going to say it was awful. You had adults responding to the school to deal with conflict between students. It was captured on video. And you saw an adult fighting our youth. What that adult didn't realize is that those Southfield police officers that you see sitting right there responded very quickly. And we were able to apprehend that adult and one of his affiliates who tried to run away. Here's what we found. We talk about parents and adults getting involved in student conflict, there was an assault rifle in the vehicle. An assault rifle in the vehicle that we were able to confiscate. So you see the mindset of an adult who is reported to a school to engage himself in this conflict. So there are consequences. We talk about gun-free zones. A school is a gun-free zone, and our state takes that type of crime very seriously, especially knowing that an assault occurred in conjunction with possession of that weapon. And that adult has been held accountable for his actions. And so I just want everybody to think before you act. I know we're emotional about our kids. I know I am, I'm sure many of you are. But the solution is not to, as an adult, inject yourself into fighting students. I've even seen in my career adults going after middle and elementary school because of those type of conflicts. Rare, but I've seen it. And so I just want to continue to encourage adults in particular, control your emotions because there will be a consequence for fighting students.
And Chief, while we're on that subject and the incident that we're referencing, while it did not occur on Southfield Public Schools property, you and I know, and we should educate our community on the fact that there's a door-to-door policy written into the law regarding the governance of our students. So our scholars are under our care from the time they leave their parents' door in the morning until they return to their parents' door in the afternoon. So that means that if they go to the gas station, to the Coney Island, if they decide to schedule an event down the road, or an adult decides to approach our children when they are a block away from the school, our children are still under our purview, and there will be the same penalties applicable to those individuals as if they were at the school on our campus. That is extremely important for families to understand, because oftentimes when we are dealing with discipline, families will say, well, it didn't happen at the school. It happened on this street or that street or at the gas station. And we often hear from our business owners, they brought it to our business. People are in business to provide a good or service. They are not in business to moderate conflict and confusion. So we have to be mindful of where we are at all times and what behaviors we're displaying in the community as well. This next topic is one that is more recent, but very, very prevalent, and sometimes misleading. That being cannabis and vaping. It is near and dear to my heart because I have watched people overdose over the years. Knowingly or unknowingly ingesting things because it looked a certain way. I'm thinking of these products that come in a bag that look like the potato chips that our children would buy from the regular store. The candy that looks like a candy bar, but it really has, I don't even know the technical name, TCH? Okay, thank you, because I don't know a lot about it, but I do know that it is a serious issue with our young people. Again, Michigan is a state where now the recreational cannabis is legal, but according to the studies, and I quote, substance use is the main predictor of educational outcomes, including absenteeism. Our pupil accounting person is in the audience this evening, and we meet on a regular basis to talk about how many students are actually attending class each day, and we are struggling with absenteeism, and it could be that the parent was not in the right frame of mind to get the student to school, or the student was incapacitated, or they thought that there was something else they should be doing instead of being in class. Learning occurs in the classroom. So in order to afford them the best education, we must have them present in school all of the time. So going back to my quote, these results highlight the need for comprehensive efforts, and I know that we have our partners here. I know that they're not the Southfield Anti-Drug Coalition anymore, and I'm looking at the president in the audience. They will remind me the name of it, but they do great work with providing resources for our families to keep our students safe and away from these types of drugs. But knowing that these substances are legal for adults in Michigan, which means that more of these substances are accessible to our students, what can parents do to prevent their children accessing?
So we're going to start with the home environment. We're going to talk about how, although these substances are now legal, there's still rules associated with it. You're not supposed to indulge in these in public. They're really for the privacy of your home. So we'll start with that. Secondly, our children are paying attention to our behavior. They're mimicking a lot of things that we do. So the first thing I would ask parents who are choosing to partake in recreational marijuana and these other drugs is to not do these things in the presence of your child, because they're getting curious, and then that's a behavior that can be mimicked. Also, just like with the handguns and the weapons, where are these things being stored at to prevent our children who, through their curiosity, is going to indulge or find an avenue to gain possession of these items? How do we know that? Because these things end up in our schools. We've had an incident where a child took some gummies that belonged to their parent to school and gave them to classmates. Those things have happened. In fact, it happened to my nephew at his school. And so what are you doing to properly store those items and not have them readily available for our children through their curiosity to use with their friends, sell to their friends, and particularly use it? What do we know about vaping? You kind of touched on it. The marketing for this stuff is really extreme. It really shouldn't be. I don't even know how it's legal. But they set these things up to look like candy, so they're marketing themselves for our children to get addicted to these things, so when they become adults, the system is already in place. So through our parents, it goes back to having those conversations with their children, advising them that using these drugs affect the brain, particularly for our youth. Your brain hasn't developed until you're around 25 years old. And now you put these chemicals inside of your body that is altering your mind, your thoughts, and your processes. We have pamphlets available outside that will address vaping and some of these other illicit drugs that we encourage some of you to take home and share with your child, because again, they're being approached at school, they're being approached in their respective networks with their social media and their friends who are using these products. And peer pressure, as we all know, is significant. And so communication with your children is utmost importance.
And Chief, I may be dating myself when I say that I remember the videos and the commercials regarding secondhand smoke from nicotine. I listen to our principals and our other leaders talk about drop-off and pick-up at the schools and how they open car doors to escort the scholars in, and there's a plume of smoke coming out of the vehicles, which we know that if parents are driving their children while partaking, there has to be an impact on those young people confined in that vehicle with them commuting to and from school. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, and the research is out there. You Google it yourself. Don't take my word on it. The secondhand smoke is just as potent as individuals taking it in directly. We have a PowerPoint presentation that our school resource officers do that talk about smoking, the impacts of smoking and secondhand smoke, and also the vaping, because I know we're going to market that as lighter or less chemicals. Not accurate. There's a significant number of chemicals in the vaping product, and through our presentation to our youth, it shows the impact that vaping and smoking has on the lungs, particularly of our young adults. And when we show this slide, it really opens the eyes of people in the room. They see how this particular young man's lungs collapsed, were damaged by way of secondhand smoke and vaping.
And I want to thank our Board of Education who recently approved a resolution to join a class action lawsuit against the manufacturers of many of the companies that create these vaping devices, because as you stated, they do target our children. They target all children. And we have to be the gatekeepers as the adults, as the parents of youth, in not only educating them, but making it more restrictive and less accessible for them to access these items. You mentioned something about knowing what your children receive. I remember a young person coming before me who stated that he was able to order some things from Amazon. And the package came to the house, and he started sharing these items. Parents, if it arrives at your doorstep, open it. Find out what is in that package. It could be dangerous. This happened to be some nunchucks or something along those lines, but that's still considered a weapon. And that's something that we also want to clarify. There's law enforcement, and you have laws that govern all of what you do. But then, as I mentioned at the beginning, we have a student code of conduct. So I want to touch on that just a little, if I may, because we still have some very serious consequences that the Southfield Public Schools Administration and Board of Education can enact under the law, Michigan Compiled Law 380.1311. I know those like the back of my hand because I eat, sleep, and breathe them every day. It gives a very prescriptive methodology on what the school board must do. And when parents come before our school board for expulsion, they pour their hearts out, and our board is very empathetic to what they are sharing. But at the end of the day, there are certain offenses that our board must, the term that is used in the law is shall, expel a student from the Southfield Public Schools. And I want to touch on that because I don't think people really understand what those are until they're faced with that challenge. So there is something called a snap suspension. That is if a teacher decides that the offense in the classroom is egregious enough that may cause harm in the classroom to disrupt the learning environment. They can suspend a child from a classroom for 1 day. Most people think that an administrator has to suspend a student. Now, the administrator has to sign off on the SNAP suspension for the 1 day because we don't want everyone running around issuing suspensions to students. Our goal is to keep them in the classroom, not out. That's one level. A building leader who finds a student in violation of the student code of conduct at the elementary level and at the middle school level can suspend for up to 10 days. That is 10 school days. That does not count the weekends. That does not count the break. If it happened on last Monday, we had the election on Tuesday, which was a non-school day for students. That day would not count toward that 10 days. It would count, the days would start after that. The high school administration, under this Michigan Compiled Law, can suspend for up to 20 days. There are only 20 instructional days in a month. We are only in school 9 months, 10, well, really 9 if you take out all of the breaks. That is a month of lost learning that your child could be subject to for violating the code of conduct. There are long-term suspensions, so there are different levels. If you are referred for something very egregious and it rises to a superintendent hearing, the superintendent can suspend for up to 59 days. That is almost 3 months of instruction, at which time the recommendation could be going before our Board of Education to recommend either a longer term suspension or a temporary expulsion, which could be 90 days up to 150 days, or a permanent expulsion. And I want to differentiate the two, because a permanent expulsion means that you are not only prohibited from attending a Southfield public school, but you are prohibited from attending any public school in the state of Michigan. We don't want people to get to that point. We don't want to put children out of school. We are in the business of educating children and keeping them here and keeping them safe. We can only do that through the partnerships that we have with our parents and the partnerships that we have with you and our SROs, who we are extremely grateful for having here with us today. I know that we've said a lot. We've given our community a lot to think about, and I know that they still have more questions that I had not even considered asking you this evening. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over. Am I taking questions in that? Just a couple? Okay, we will take them. All right. Will Southfield A&T get metal detectors? My child is afraid that if he reports certain activity, he will be targeted by the student. We pride ourselves on keeping tips anonymous. If it is made by way of okay to say, the chief and the detectives may have the information from the IP address, but oftentimes that IP address information is not turned over to the schools. We do that to keep that person safe and anonymous in the process. Is that accurate?
Yes, I'm glad that question came up, because I know I may have confused a few people when I'm talking about an investigative process looking for a person responsible for a threat. Okay to say is completely anonymous. It's managed through the Michigan State Police. And so that information, their identity, is kept secret even from us. We're getting only the information that can lead us to our investigation efforts and or a suspect involved in that crime. But okay to say is safe and is completely anonymous.
Thank you. And then the question, will Southfield A&T get metal detectors? I will take that. The chief and I have spoke ad nauseum about the benefits, the pros and the cons of having metal detectors in our schools. Our school boards has had these conversations through our study sessions, and I will be the first to say that while they may not look appealing, Chief, you're the subject matter expert, and you said to me and said to our Board of Education, to our community, that we should invest in metal detectors. It will help to keep us safe. They have metal detectors at sporting arenas. They have metal detectors at airports. They have metal detectors at hospitals now, and most other places that we frequent. So our school board is committed, and the district is committed through this bond work that we're doing to not only create an environment through secure vestibules, etc., but we are committed to providing metal detectors enhancements at not only Southfield A&T, but in other schools as well, as part of our bond dollars. Our community has entrusted us with to keep our buildings safe and keep our scholars safe. So yes to that person who lifted that question. Next question. So in what ways are we combating physical violence, like fighting and jumping? How can we target drug use, purchasing, if it's at school, the breezes and the bakes? We touched on this a little bit, and they're wanting to know, you mentioned the sale and how easy it is for people to not only purchase them, but to sell them. So can you give us a little bit more on that piece?
Yeah, and I'm going to take a moment here, because these individuals out here in this audience who took the time to join us are your Southfield School Resource Officers. Can I have the Southfield School Resource Officers and the supervisors please stand? And they do tremendous work. I'm going to start off by saying just a few things about the work that they do. They're doing this job not because the chief forced them to this assignment. This is what their heart took them to do. Many people don't want to do this work. It's difficult. It's demanding. You're in a school for your entire workday, where most police officers are out answering runs, they're out in the community, where these officers are confined to a building. And so when you ask a question about, how can we look to resolve issues, they're trained. Oftentimes they know that a conflict is developing, and those students will talk either our Southfield school resource officers or our school security about who's the conflict involving, and then they intervene. You don't often hear about that because they solve those issues very quickly. But when you have issues that arise when it comes to issues of narcotics entering our school, they hold individuals accountable. I was talking to Chief of Staff Jackson. We were talking about the fact that due to the presence of our school resource officers over the last few years, disciplinary cases have dropped significantly with the presence of school resource officers. Why is that? Because they take the report and then they forward the information to our detectives and an investigation develops. They're doing de-escalation constantly with our students in confidence. They got body cameras on, and they're activating those body cameras, and they're capturing who's involved in what fight. I remember seeing, and Dr. Green, you called me on this one, seeing our good friend, Officer Walker, involved in breaking up a big melee outside. Art came shortly thereafter to help him. Walker was out there by himself. And so he exercised patience. He wasn't drawing guns and batons. He was trying to use what he had available to separate and control those students. And so if you got issues occurring at our schools, have confidence in our school resource officers. Give them the information because they're going to do the right thing.
And I appreciate you saying that because, this question was twofold. One, speaking of the purchasing and the purchasing of breezes and baits around the school. When we find out about these things, we being the school district, can conduct a search because we have probable cause and reasonable suspicion. And people often say, well, this is my property. It is in our building. We have the authority to search those items. And if we find something, we will write it up for suspension leading to expulsion and removing that element from our schools. And I'm glad you mentioned the reduction in fights because I'm very, very proud of the work happening in our school district. Most recently, Southfield High School for the Arts and Technology presented at our school board, and from the same time frame last school year to this school year, they have a 78% reduction in fight and violent activity. That is unheard of in 1 year. And we have people that get fixated on sensational situations that happen. I continue to hear about tasing. Well, you allow the students to get tased. We had one tasing incident in the 7 years that I've been here, and it was justified. I'm not speaking for you. I want you to expound on it. It was something that was unfortunate, but I want to clarify for our families that our school resource officers are not walking around our buildings, tasing, batoning, or pulling weapons on any of our scholars. Is that an accurate statement, Chief?
It's very accurate. And anything that transpired with this police department, you all know me at this point. And Dr. Green talked about it earlier. You ain't gonna find too many police chiefs as transparent as I am. Good or bad, I'm gonna show you the video. And then if we do something inappropriate, I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna do to hold that person accountable for. So when you talk about the incident Dr. Green is referring to, it was again a melee in the hallways of students fighting, and then the attack was launched at our school resource officers who had to gain control of individuals. So yes, someone was tased, but it was tased under our policies, our procedures. Once the behavior stopped and the individual stopped acting in a manner, of that aggressive manner to fight our officers and or his classmates, the tasing stopped. So we will use our tools that are available to manage the situation, but we do it responsibly. We said again, we do it responsibly because our officers understand the impact that these devices have on our youth.
So, Chief, I was told that our time is coming to an end, but there are two more two important questions, and our parents came out this evening, so if you would just indulge me for a few more moments, I do want to address these two. One is that of what should our parents do as they hear of children being bullied. We know that it has a psychological impact on young people. What do you suggest parents do when they hear of these incidents?
Well, we've got to take bullying very seriously. And the reason for that, we talk about bullying about youth, there have been cases where our children have committed suicide as a result of being bullied. And that's across the country. So if you learn of a bullying incident, and they come in different forms, bullying is not just physical. There's bullying transpiring on social media, shame as to how someone may look, shame how someone may dress. It's difficult being a child, student these days, coming to class, and you may not have the means to keep up with some of these fashions, as an example. Or individuals may feel like they're not attractive. And so it does lead to suicide. So take bullying incidents very seriously. Report them to the Southfield Police Department or whatever district that you learn that this is occurring. Because there is a response from law enforcement and the criminal justice system who equally take bullying incidents seriously because of the suicides that have occurred. So let our officers know. We'll take a report, an investigation will transpire, we make contact with those parents, we make contact with those students, we will attempt to resolve, change that behavior.
And that's why I wanted you to speak to that question, because I know that oftentimes parents feel that children are being children and this is a rite of passage. No, this is a serious issue that can lead to life-altering consequences. So thank you for that. The next one I'm going to take, and we've recently developed some protocols around this and definitions, if you will, regarding procedures for communication with parents during lockdowns. There are different types of lockdowns. If there is a soft lockdown, that means that there's a threat on the outside of the building, within the community, and all of our exterior doors are locked. But that also means that no parents can enter the building and no students can exit the building. That is extremely important because parents want to remove their children when they want to remove their children. And if you call me and tell me that there is an imminent threat in our community, I cannot open the doors for parents to come in, nor can I allow your children to come out. And that is for the safety of you both. Then there is a hard lockdown. That means that there is an imminent threat within the building, at which time scholars are confined to their classrooms and cannot pass throughout the building while that situation is being investigated. So oftentimes when you hear lockdown, people automatically think they're one and the same, but as we know, they're not. The communications part is twofold. One, if we're in the midst of an investigation, we will try to communicate with families as swiftly as possible, but our primary goal is to ensure the safety of all of the scholars that are under our care at that time. And sometimes that means we can't get to the computer to push out a message as swiftly as some people may want us to push out a message.
And what Dr. Green is referring to, we in law enforcement call it the reunification area. So where you as a parent should know if there's an emergency at the school, where to report, to get information, and to receive your child at the appropriate time. One thing I want to mention as well when it comes to the relationship that Dr. Green and I have, we speak constantly about things that happen in schools, and we make adjustments. We're not perfect. Sometimes things will happen. When you look at the incident that happened with the student who brought the gun in school, we debriefed on that with our members, our officers, our supervisors, school staff. They said, what can we do better? What can we do better? And we found avenues to approach a similar situation where we can make improvements, and we're going to make those improvements.
Absolutely. We are constantly a work in progress, and I can't thank you enough for all that you do to support us, to support the community. I understand that we have a few other individuals that joined us. I see our board secretary in the back of the room, Trustee Smith Thomas. Good evening, welcome. And also, I understand Mayor Garrett from Lathrop Village is here somewhere. Mayor Garrett, yes, she is. Hello, Mayor. Thank you so much for being here. And it's important to acknowledge that we have 2 police departments within our school district. And I'd also like you to touch just a little bit on that and how we work collaboratively to ensure that all of our students are safe, regardless as to whether your school's footprint is in the city of Southfield or within that of Lathrop Village.
Right, so many of you know, and thank you for the mayor of Lathrop Village joining us as well, because we have a relationship with the Lathrop Village Police Department, because as you all know, they have a high school that sits in the footprint of the city of Southfield. We have Southfield school resource officers who also patrol that particular school environment. That way, if there's an incident at the school, we are familiar with each other. We are familiar with our protocols, our policies, and it's a seamless, immediate response for service. And so there are times, and we've had times, where we had to redirect some of our resources, whether school resource officers or some of our patrol units to help out, and vice versa. So this relationship continues. Dr. Wayne talked about in the event of a critical incident response. We'll say a situation involving a gun or, God forbid, an active shooter. There's training that goes into that. There's avenues of approach. And one thing I want all of you to understand, the Southfield Police Department, the Lathrop Police Department, in the event of a call for any type of active shooter or a gun threat, we're not waiting on our SWAT teams to arrive. Our officers are trained. They understand the first arriving officers, that's the team. Their mission is to go in there and identify and eliminate that threat. So again, our training is constant, it's continuous. We have the equipment. We have the understanding that children are not going to be dying while police officers stand outside waiting on the SWAT unit to respond.
And she touch on the fact that many of the staff within Southfield Public Schools have been trained by the Southfield Police Department as well.
Right, so in collaboration with the schools, I think Dr. Green, I thought it was very important that our police officers receive additional high-level training, that ALICE training, that many of you are familiar with. And so over the course of school years, over the last couple of years, we kind of ramped up that. And so I want to acknowledge the supervisors too for the Southfield Police Department, Executive Lieutenant Teresa Young, who stands in the back. Sergeant Lawrence Thomas Single, who sits right here. And also Deputy Chief of Investigation. Please stand up, Deputy Chief. Deputy Chief of Investigation, Aaron Cooper. He's also part of this whole process of making sure that our training is effective, our equipment. And I'm going to also thank, she's no longer a Southfield City Council member, but we have an Oakland County Commissioner. Please stand.
Absolutely.
Because listen, when you talk about support for the Southfield Police Department for equipment and training, the chief just can't just spend money. It has to go through a process to get the proper equipment. And through your efforts as a member of the Southfield Public City Council, a lot of the things our acts have been honored to ensure that the police officers have the resources to make our schools safe. So thank you for what you've done.
Absolutely. And I thank you as well. When I first joined the team, when you first joined the team, one of our very early conversations was around the fact that at that time we had one school resource officer for the entire Southfield Public Schools. So you went to your city council, I went to the Board of Education, and collectively we said, we need more, we need help, and together we are both grateful that our Board of Education and the City Council said, yes, this is a priority for us, and we sit here today with no less than 4 officers, four full-time school resource officers for our schools, and we have access to all other officers that are on duty
Correct.
while school is operational.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
for that, I sincerely thank you.
Absolutely.
Chief, we've covered a lot. We know that these conversations will be ongoing. We welcome you back at any time. We thank our PTA President, Ms. Celestine Sanders, for lifting this very important topic. Did I forget to ask anything of you this evening?
No, that's just on behalf of the Southfield Police Department. Thank you for your efforts. I know a lot of focus comes on law enforcement because we're in the uniforms when responding. But we talk about the leadership from the school is very important. There are many school districts out here who don't have the cooperation that the Southfield Police Department gets from Dr. Green and her staff. There's an expectation that you communicate with the Southfield police officers, give us information, give us reports, and that's vice versa. And so I want the community to know that this relationship doesn't happen in all school districts where the chief and the superintendent talk day or night. Weekend vacations, we don't talk about vacations. I'm in Florida
We don't
talking
get
to you.
vacations.
We don't get vacations. So just, I want you to understand the relationship that we have as we understand the importance of school safety. We dedicate that and we show that. But thank you and your staff, certainly not superintendent, maybe soon to be, but chief of staff, Jackson as well. And the school board as well, for all that you do as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining me this evening.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.